Hey, guys, how you doing? Welcome to On the Rocks. I'm Jamie Wilson. I'm going to be your host for tonight. Tonight we've got a great show, and we have a theme for the show tonight. If you saw the caption in our live feed, it's all about reinvention and reincarnation because it's been a world is upside down, man. It's a topsy turvy world, and we've had to reinvent ourselves. And as the world stopped, we had to find a way to move forward in one way or another. And tonight, our guests have done just that. Before we bring them on, I'm here wishing you guys. I hope you guys have had a great day, having a good week. You had a good Valentine's. And for those of you who are single, hey, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with, guys. So I hope you guys are staying safe and staying vigilant, and staying strong and staying sane. And of course, we'd like to thank our beloved sponsors for tonight. Thank you so much to Buenos Dias Panaderia. Your Milo buns and now your Milo donuts are just to die for, guys. Follow them on Instagram and follow them on Facebook, and they're the most amazing place to get. If you have a sweet tooth, this is the place for you. They are the 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 bakery for you, basically. So that's Buenos Dias Panaderia. Thank you so much again. Also to the Misty Mountain Cafe. And if you like premium blend coffee, make sure to check out the Misty Mountain Cafe on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm particularly fond of their Cordillera Gold and their hazelnut blends. I'm going to try the Kalinga tonight. So this is going to be an interesting thing. I hear it has the highest caffeine content, so probably going to be bouncing off the walls tomorrow morning. And of course, thank you to our friends from Liquor.ph who have just recruited me into the cult of corn. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I am drinking mellow corn. Yeah, it's a straight up corn whiskey. It sounds kind of weird because, like, hey, corn, really? But don't let the name fool you because this sucker packs a big punch. But the one thing, that's great about this is that, yeah, it's got a unique flavor profile. You taste the corn right away, yeah, but you also have notes of like vanilla, toasted oak, and it's just an amazing bottle. And it's bottled in bond, so that means it's 50% alcohol. So it's got quite a kick. So make sure to pick a bottle up today at liquor.ph. So cheers to our liquor.ph friends out there. Frank, you are just getting me sauced every Wednesday night. So, all right. So, talking about reinvention and reincarnation. All right. Our first guest tonight comes all the way via Melbourne, Australia. I discovered her music through a mutual friend of ours, Rosanna, who I'd like to thank. And because this lady has just reinvented herself into a singer songwriter. And I think she's lived, as I was discussing this with her earlier. She's lived in a lot of cities all over the world. She is also has spent a lot of time here in the Philippines, in Manila, and she has now reinvented herself from a journalist into an artist. And it's quite an interesting transition because her album Revolving Doors is out now on Spotify and all the streaming platforms, and I am enjoying listening to it quite a lot. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Melbourne, Australia, let's bring on Miss Salli Edwards.
Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Sally, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm so happy
Oh,
to be here. Thanks.
thank you for making the time. It's almost midnight there, or is it
Yes,
midnight already?
that's right. Like I said earlier, normally I'm in bed by 9:30. That's so rock and roll, isn't it? But I'm trying to stay awake here, but
Well, it's funny because because of the pandemic, especially in the early days of the lockdown, I think it was partially stress and also anxiety and also knowing that we didn't have anything to do tomorrow. Our sleeping habits got a little bit messed up. But how are you doing during how has this pandemic been treating you? Other than being able to release an album, I must say.
yeah,
How are
thanks.
you doing?
That was the bright spot, I suppose, releasing the album late last year. But I guess I'm in a bit of an unusual situation because I do have a job, and I'm very lucky that I still have a job, a day job. I would love to be a full time musician, but I guess that's not my life at the moment. Maybe one day, who knows? So yeah, I do have a job, and so I've been working from home for almost a year now. So that's kind of been my routine. So I still get up and I log in. I sit right here. This is my office, so to speak. yeah, and work, and then try to play guitar or some music in between meetings and things like that. Oh, I hope my bosses aren't watching this, because they'll be like, no wonder that she never answers our calls, because she's busy playing music. Anyway,
Well,
but
do you find working from home a lot more exhausting than actually heading out? Because
absolutely, yes,
that's what's been
yeah,
happening to me. There's no separation between your workspace
that's
and
right.
your home space.
Yeah, yeah,
So for me, it's really exhausting. And the one thing that I learned, like working from home, is that people know you're home. They
yes,
know you're online. So basically, I won't call you past 5 p.m. Now I'm getting calls at like all times of, all times late at night, early in the morning, and you're like, dude, we got to go back to that system of respecting your personal time. But hey,
that's
I'm
right.
thankful for the work. And, as you said, it's good that you have a day job. Don't be a
Yes.
full time musician. It's hard.
Yeah, I know I do admire people who do that full time and have really pursued their dreams. I think that's a fantastic thing. I mean, I just feel very lucky to be in a position where I still have a job. Even here in Australia, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of businesses have gone under because of the pandemic. So it's also pretty grim. Maybe not as grim as in other places in the world. So I feel very lucky that A, I still have a job, and B, I was able to make music and release an album in the midst of all this. So
Yes, and what an album it is. Really.
thank
We're gonna go into the details of the album a bit later on,
you.
but I wanna get a handle on basically, how you developed into a musician, because everybody listens to music. So I wanna figure out what did you grow up listening to?
Yeah, I mean, I can pretty much trace my musical influences all the way back to my childhood. I've always loved music. As I've said to people, I'm Filipino, so music is in our DNA, right?
Yes.
Like I don't know any Filipinos who don't like music or don't sing or don't dance or don't do karaoke, right? Nearly every single party we have karaoke. So
Yes.
yeah, we always had music playing in the house, and as a child, I would listen to things that my parents listened to. So all the crooners like Sinatra and Matt Monroe, stuff from the 50s and 60s. And then, growing up, I started to venture into my own kind of tastes in music, like
Hmm.
a lot of Fleetwood Mac and um, yeah, Carly Simon, sort of 70s kind of folksy female singer songwriters.
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks is a major influence, and then all the way to the 80s, 80s pop, 90s grunge, and also a lot of really sort of obscure stuff like movie soundtracks. I like listening to Henry Mancini and
Hmm.
Nino Rota, that kind of thing, the Godfather theme,
Yeah.
and then my biggest influence, I suppose, musically, Jamie, is Burt Bacharach. And
Wow.
I think that, for someone like him, and he himself has influenced a lot of my own influences, people like Amy Mann. I guess she's also among the top of my list. So yeah, a lot of influences, but I also listen to everything, 60s pop. I listen to some really heavy rock. Um, yeah, it's just been very eclectic, I suppose, and a lot of these things sort of come out in some way in my music. Even electronica, um, dance music, maybe R&B.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of everything, really. So that even the album is a little bit of everything, and people tend to ask me, people ask me, so what kind of music do you do? And I always get a bit stuck describing it, because I find it really hard to sort of just nail it down to one genre or category. I feel like that's kind of pigeonholing myself, because yeah. Anyway.
Well, Chuck Berry used to get that asked a lot. So, what music do you do? And he always answered, good music. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
he's
call
Chuck.
it next time.
Yeah, he's Chuck Berry. I do good music. I do Chuck Berry music, and I'm like, that's an awesome answer, because it's really
That's good.
difficult. Like, especially now that, like, when we, like you were saying about your influences. I mean, from Burt Bacharach, to Frank Sinatra, to Amy Mann and Stevie Nicks, going forward through the '80s. The '80s alone
Yes.
It's very difficult to actually categorize the music that came out as in the 80s, and now we just think of it as the 80s music. But that was responsible for a lot of diversification in the genres and a lot of crossovers as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, the only reason why we do pigeonhole um, genres of music, I think, is just to make the record stores.
Yes.
It's easier for you to go to okay, let me go to the hard rock section or the classical section. You know what I mean? But other than that, it's not purely anymore any single genre, and that's why I think that's how the most interesting music that's how it comes out because of all these various influences. But Sally, let me ask you, when did you start singing?
Um, I don't know, since I was maybe 3 years old, standing on the coffee table with a hairbrush as a microphone. Does that count?
We have all done that. Hairbrush,
We've all
or
done that. Singing in front of the
yeah,
mirror, right? Yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah. I feel like I was always singing. I don't remember a time when I didn't sing or didn't know how to sing. So it's kind of something that's more intuitive, I suppose. Um, but singing kind of more officially and singing like in front of an audience that
Yeah. When
happened
did that happen?
much later. I mean, I was in a choir um, for a while, only for a short time. But singing solo, I can probably say that didn't really happen until I was in San Francisco. So much later, I suppose. Yeah.
And so primarily you're listed down as a journalist, right? So you got into journalism and you've reported things from lifestyle stuff to the news,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
So that would be a very interesting angle in terms of when you transition into a songwriter, right? Your discipline already for writing is there
That's
because
correct.
you're right. It's just translating it into music. So when did you decide that you wanted to do an album? Was it just during this pandemic, or is this has been on the back burner for ages?
Definitely, it's been in the back burner for ages. The songs on the album were the majority of them, except for a number of them written last year that were inspired by the pandemic. So there are two songs, but the majority of them are songs I wrote many years ago or over many years. Some when I was still living in San Francisco, in fact. So I guess you could say I didn't just sort of wake up one day and say I'm going to start writing songs or I'm going to make an album. It was sort of, I guess it was a journey. I was in a band in San Francisco we were doing covers mainly. And so we would just kind of play our favorite songs and do a couple of small gigs here and there. And then it got to a point, and you can probably relate to this, Jamie, when you're singing covers, and then after a while, you kind of feel like they're not quite enough because they're not really expressing how you yourself feel. Um, so I guess from there, it just sort of evolved naturally to starting to write, my own songs. And so at that time, I was collaborating with the other band members, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the songwriting process. Um, yeah, and then it just kind of evolved into, you're absolutely right. I think being a journalist gives you a certain kind of sort of skill or, yeah, sort of, this patience for observation.
Yeah,
And every time, because whenever you write a news story, sometimes you have to find a different angle to that news story from what's already been done before. So in a way, that's kind of the approach I had for my songs. A lot of the songs are maybe about breakups, but I didn't want to just write a typical "you broke my heart, you're such a jerk," whatever. That's been done to death before. So I was always trying to find a different perspective, or maybe just a different angle. You don't have to tell the whole story. Maybe you just tell a little slice of it. And
yeah.
yeah, and then the ambiguity is the great part because people can interpret the song in whatever way they want, right? Because you also want it to be relatable. It's not just about you. You want people to be able to relate to it. It has to be universal.
Yeah, that's the beauty about music. I mean, the universality of it is, even if
Yes.
you're telling it from your one slice of
Yes.
life or your specific angle, some of the best songs that have ever been written can be interpreted in so many ways. I've always said that if you play one song for 50 people, you'll get 100 different opinions.
That's right.
And I think that's the beauty of it, because even to the songs that I've been listening to for, the past few decades or written decades ago, depending on how you feel on the day, you see something new or you
That's right.
hear something new and you realize, oh my God, this never occurred to me in the past. And now it's hitting me and I never really understood this song
That's
until now.
That is so true. I have a song on the album. It's an older song which I included in the album. It was actually released previously. It's a song I actually wrote all the way back in San Francisco, and it's called "Blindside."
I
And
love
it's
that
funny
song.
because "Blindside" is actually it was a song that I wrote, and it was meant to be a song about deception. You know, when someone blindsides you and you
Yeah.
didn't see it coming. But every time I play it to people, or most people, they all think it's a love song. They're like, "Oh, did you write that about your husband or whatever?" And like, no, that was written 20 years ago or whatever. It's about blah blah blah. You know, it's about deception, and it's actually quite an angry song because it's like, "Oh, you had me fooled," and people are like, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't pick that up. I thought it was a love song." So it's exactly what you just described, I think, and that's the beauty of it. You write a song, and people can make it their own.
I actually really liked Blindside on your album.
Thank you.
And I did not think it was about deception. But then now when I listen to it again and think of it from that angle, I mean, deception happen if people think it's a love song, which I honestly thought it was a love song,
Oh,
right?
that's right.
A slightly angry love song, but the anger didn't really take center stage. And now when you tell me when somebody blindsides you, that does happen in relationships a
Yes,
lot. I
yes,
always say, like, in the beginning of the relationship, you're getting the best version of the person until eventually time will wear you down, and then you see the reality of the person.
yeah.
And eventually, that's why they say time heals all wounds, et cetera, et cetera. It's because the more time you spend with somebody, the more you get to know them, and a relationship will continue if it started out, even if you're being the best version of yourself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
um when that wears off, and people love you in spite of your
yeah.
faults. Sometimes people love you because of your faults, makes you human. But now I'm going to be listening to Blindside from a totally different angle.
I hope I haven't ruined it for you.
No, it's great, because that's why I love doing these shows, because you get to know the backgrounds of some of the songs that catch your ear. And eventually, when you see it from the artist's perspective as well, eventually, it does color it when you listen to it again. But eventually, listening to it on your own will eventually give your own take on it.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? And you see how it applies to your life. You know how the best feeling is really like, oh, I felt like that in this song. And that's why I listen to music. It's a great release. It's also why I sing, I play music,
Yes,
because it's a great release. And knowing that you're not alone in feeling this way,
yes.
when a great song comes around, that's the best feeling. So okay, let's get into Revolving Doors. How did this album come about? You're in the middle of the pandemic, the world is going crazy, and I'm like, what did you think? I'm going to make an album.
Yeah, it was last year when the pandemic was starting out, and I remember sitting in this very room, um and this song, Traces, which is on the album, it's actually
Mhm.
the first single of the
Yeah.
album, literally just came out, and as you know, like songwriting, it's not always a linear consistent process, right? Sometimes the words come first, sometimes the melody comes first, whatever. But in this case, the song just came out in like 20 minutes, words and music, because I was feeling so much about the pandemic, and I felt like I had so much to release, to let out. Like you said, music is the best, emotional release. And, it just kind of summarized how I was feeling about, the uncertainty of it all, this pandemic, the unknown, the fear of it, the fear of going out and maybe being exposed to this thing, not being able to see your loved ones or hold them, so all of these feelings. And I remember writing the song and I thought, well, I've always dreamed of, releasing an album, and I have all these songs. I've got like at least 2 albums worth of songs just sitting there. And I've tried many times to go into a studio to record them. But because I'm a solo artist and I don't play all the instruments, right? I just play the guitar. You have to rely on other musicians to come along
Yeah.
and play the songs with you. And you have to book in studio time. And it gets a bit kind of logistically challenging after a while. So it never really panned out. But I guess when I finally wrote Traces, and I thought, well, I'm just sitting at home most of the time now. Like, I think now is the time to finally get this album out. And so I actually did it through, and this is, one of the innovations of the pandemic, being able to kind of tap into technology, right? So I actually recorded it through an online recording studio. That I found on the internet. And I've used online recording studios before, but I found these guys and they were just amazing. So yeah, that was actually like I said earlier, a bright spot during the time when we were all in lockdown last year. And I was working, but at the same time, the album was like the light at the end of the tunnel for me. It was what kept me going. It was an emotional release. It was a dream that I was working towards achieving. And it also gave me a bit of a distraction and something to look forward to. And you keep hearing about people in lockdown who are suddenly like following all these creative pursuits, right?
Yes.
People taking up painting, or people who used to play piano when they were young and they take it up again. So it was kind of along those lines as well. Of now is the time. Yeah, so that's kind of how it all came about and how it happened. And so I feel like, well, life is too short as well. You're in
Yes.
a pandemic. You just don't know. Everything just suddenly feels so ephemeral, and you don't know how much time we have left on this earth. And I didn't want to regret not ever making this album. So I thought, okay, that was the other drive too. I had to release it last year. I was like 2020, and just something good has got to come out of 2020.
Yes. You have to mark 2020 with something good instead of
Exactly.
like, just suffering in this
Yeah,
weirdness.
yeah, that's
That's the weird thing about the pandemic. It made you realize that, you don't really know how much time you have in on this earth. And we never really do. But during the pandemic, all of a sudden we had so much time
yeah,
on our hands on a daily basis. So like what you were saying, people were pursuing these creative endeavors,
that's
because they had to pass the time and they had to find something that will get through the day. And I want to ask you about this song that helps get me through the day. And it really is quite an amazing song. It's your opening track on the album, Falling Deep into the Sea. And from the title, because I'm a writer as well, and it's just so visual from the title alone. I didn't even hear the song yet, and I'm like, I already have the imagery
wow.
of falling deep into the sea. Can you tell me how that song came about?
Yes, I definitely can. That song came out. I wrote that when I was going through a really difficult time. So that song is about disappointment. So it's
Yes.
about, people tell you, dream lofty dreams, because you can only reach as high as, or whatever the saying is. So yeah, I was kind of working towards this goal, and then yeah, it didn't happen. I failed basically, and it was such a kind of almost public failure, if you can say that. So it was a very difficult time, and so I was also talking to some other friends around the same time, and they were talking about some of the dreams that they had that they didn't end up achieving. So the theme of the song was really about disappointment. So it wasn't just about my own experience; it was an amalgamation of other people's experience about disappointment. So it's about really really putting your heart and soul to try to achieve something, but then failing. So the disappointment around that. Yeah, and so that song also came out pretty quickly. I remember when I was writing that one, I started with the lyrics. I think because feeling all these things, and I have my journal or my iPad where I just kind of write some lyrics. And then I was kind of just noodling around on the guitar with these chords, and then somehow, the melody just kind of, that was coming out in my head, just fit with the lyrics. So I thought, okay, and so I kind of just went with that.
I love
Um,
that when that happens.
yeah,
When
isn't
things
it?
that you put down on paper and all of a sudden the melody works, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, like they actually fit. They're meant to be together. It's like,
Yes.
it's fate, it's destiny. Sometimes you have to kind of tweak the lyrics a bit to make them fit. And the more you do that, it doesn't sound any good. It doesn't.
Yes, it gets to sounding awkward. You have to fix things syllabically, and you're like, oh, as a singer, you're like, I can't say this word like this; it won't make sense. But then I need to fit it into the melody. All these things that all the work that go into crafting a song. But I must say, when you're saying in this song, "Falling Deep into the Sea," when you're saying, I'm drowning," that's actually the hook that got me, because I mean, how many times in my life I had felt that way, especially last year, in the beginning of last year, when the pandemic happened and all my shows were canceled. There were days where I literally felt like I was drowning. I couldn't breathe. I was in too deep. And I think hearing you sing that and it's such a simple moment when you sing it too. It's not a big note. You're not singing any big notes, and all that. It's just so simplified, and it made so much sense to me when I heard it. It's making more sense to me now when you say, these lyrics and these melodies seem to fit together, because, yeah, that's the time allotted to say this certain line. And when you say, I'm drowning, it brought me back to how I felt early last year, when I was, in over my head and I
Mm,
couldn't breathe. And at the same time, it also made me appreciate where I am today, because I can breathe.
yeah.
I'm no longer drowning. So it's such that's why I love this song, because of that specific moment that it gave me. It made me appreciate where I am now. It brought me back to where I was, but it also made me appreciate where I am right now. So thank you so much for that song.
Oh, Jamie, I should thank you. I could almost cry. That's just really beautiful. Thank you for, I guess, as a songwriter, right? And I think I've said this to some other people before. That is the greatest gift, I think, that someone can give you as a songwriter, is to tell you that a song that you wrote about something that you yourself had experienced somehow resonated with them, and also helped them through a difficult time. Because that's kind of how we listen to music, right? A lot of my all-time favorite songs are the ones that help me through difficult times, or how,
Yes.
the ones that you have a really strong emotional kind of connection with, or you can really relate to. It's like your personal theme song, but somebody else wrote it. So yeah, thank you, Jamie, for saying that. Yeah, that means a lot. And when I wrote that song, I would not never have imagined putting it on an album and have other people listen to it. But yeah, I guess it's a dream come true now that it's out there. And yeah, thank you so much. That means
Oh,
a lot.
thank you. Another song that I found very clever on your album Revolving Doors is "Nothing Looks the Same in the Light."
Ah, well, that's actually a cover.
It's a cover.
Yes,
Really? I
it is.
didn't know this. Oh,
Yes, it is a cover.
it's such an evocative title, and
Yeah.
it brought me back immediately to those moments of realization you have, where and we've gone through this, like in our heydays, like in the 90s, getting drunk, going home early in the morning, and you think you're on top of the world, and you wake up the next morning, you're hungover and you're back on earth, and you're like, oh. And that's what the title alone brought me back. Nothing looks the same in the light. And like, yeah, that's why I wear shades.
Well, so
And
point you, it's a
who
cover. Yes.
who wrote it?
Well, that a lot of people actually, I ask people to guess, but it's quite it's not a very typical song for this person. And this person is actually also one of my all-time favorite songwriters and quite an underrated songwriter. So that song is one of my all-time favorite songs. And it was always my dream that if one day I release an album, I'm going to include that as a cover in it. So did that. So the song is actually, it was originally by Wham.
Wow.
So it was
I
written by
would
George Michael. So
I
it,
would never have expected that reference listening to that song from your album. That just goes to show you that you basically reinvented the song and made it your own. That's good, huh? That's good. That's rare. I would never have guessed Wham wrote this.
yeah, Wham. So it was a Wham song, and it was on their first album called Fantastic, I think. So it was before but they became really, really famous. And I don't even
Yeah.
think it was an album. It was sorry, it was a single. It was just an album track. But
Okay.
I've always loved that song, and you're right. Something about the lyrics. It was just really poetic, and yeah. So I thought I'd just include it on the album. Yeah. So sorry to disappoint you. I did not write that one, George.
No, hey, no. Well, because now when I listen to the original version, I'm going to be comparing it to your version. That's the beauty sometimes when we cover or reinvent songs. And as artists, just as you said, we pick our own favorite songs or songs that have a strong emotional connection, and we do it from our own point of view. So now when after the show, when I go back to my Spotify, I'm going to search for that song by Wham, and they have to live up to your interpretation
Oh, thanks. Oh,
in
God.
my book, because this is the
Thanks.
first time I've heard this song. It's from you. So they have to live up to you.
Wow, that's
No pressure, no pressure.
exactly. And who would have thought George Michael, God bless his soul, wherever he may be. But yeah, that thanks for saying that. It's a beautiful song, and yeah, it sounds very different from the original. So I'd love to know what
There
you
you
think.
go. Well,
Yeah.
I hope they live up to it, because I'm going to be expecting so much from them.
Well, I was
And we
worried
go
that I was living up to it, but anyway, thanks.
okay, and we go into your title track, the Revolving Doors. It again, it's very visual. The imagery of revolving doors going through, the doors that we walk through, in our lives, in our journey, in our path. And nobody ever, the image stuck with me, because when somebody says, oh, when a door closes, another one will open, or a door closes, a window will open. And these things have been happening to me for the past week, where things that I expect to happen, all of a sudden they fall through and they don't happen. So people have been actually telling me, don't worry, another door will open. And listening to Revolving Doors right now, how many people you have entered into the lives of, where you're walking through their revolving doors, or they're walking through yours. So can you tell me how that song happened?
Yeah, that song. It's funny because I kind of, when I wrote that song, I I sort of thought, well, if I ever release an album one day, that's going to be the title track. um, and Revolving Doors, you're so right, and I didn't want it to be a cliche of people coming out in and out of your life. But I've always believed that people come in and out of our lives for a reason. And sometimes when that reason has been, or that purpose has been fulfilled, then they exit your life. It's like, the purpose is done, it's finished, and it's time for them to leave. And it goes both ways. Maybe in some cases you're the one sort of exiting their life. So that was the concept of that song. It's a very short song. I think it's probably only 2.5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember that song actually had a very complex birth, So I started that song in San Francisco. It was like this sort of guitar doodling, finger picking part, but I wasn't planning on turning it into a song. It was just something I used to warm up when I'm playing guitar, just and then I left San Francisco and I was visiting my parents who were living in Europe at the time. And then we were traveling around Europe together. And anyway, sorry, this is a really long story.
No,
But
go for it. Go for it.
And then we were in Copenhagen, I remember, and we were walking to the train station and it started raining or drizzling. And the line, just like the rain, it happens when you least expect it, just sort of popped into my head, the melody and the lyric. And I remember we were getting on the train then, and I didn't have my guitar with me, and I thought, oh my God, and this is before, iPhone voice memos. And
Yes.
I was like, how am I going to remember this song? I'm not going to remember it, by the time we get back home, 1 month later, because we were traveling around. I'm not going to remember it. But so I remember writing it on the train, just trying to write all the lyrics that I could remember. I kept singing the melody in my head over and over and over again, just so I wouldn't forget it. And it was about a month later that we got back home. Before I even unpacked or anything, I just rushed to my guitar, picked it up, and then for some reason, I don't know what it was, Jamie, but it was like something just told me, try it with that finger picking thing that you were playing before, like maybe it might fit. And it just fit perfectly. It's like the two bits were meant to be together, even though I'd written them 1 year apart almost by then. And so yeah, that's kind of how that song came about.
It's interesting when you talk about like people, through the revolving doors of life, when people go into your lives, inevitably, yeah, that happens whether it's you're walking in or somebody walks into your life. What really matters is
Mm.
when they come into your lives, there's a reason and there's a purpose. And when that's something that I have figured out during the pandemic, when we were all locked in at home, I was messaging people, checking if they were okay, and that led to deeper friendships. While as I would not actually be interacting with them that much before the pandemic in my daily life, because you're too busy with your circle was very small. You go to work and you both basically hang out with people at work, or you go to a gig and the people who go to your gigs. It was a smaller circle. And when the pandemic happened, when the world stopped, for me at least, it created deeper friendships with people that I totally did not expect to to have a deeper connection with. And it's interesting because then you figure out, why is this developing? So
Mm.
where are we in this revolving door of, I may be the person you need to listen to right now, you may be the person I need to talk to right now.
Yes.
And then just as the year went by, last year, these people are moving on, I have moved on, and that's like, that's why I love this imagery of the revolving door. It's like, yeah, and here we are. Who's gonna walk in next? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful way of describing it. It's like I've always believed that everybody you meet, um, you can learn something from, or they're
Yes.
they're there to teach you something. So even the most challenging people, sometimes, they're meant to teach you something. And even though Revolving Doors is, that's the one that is the title track, I also felt that. I guess I chose it to be the title track because I felt like it kind of summarized all the other songs as well in a way, because a lot of them were about endings and beginnings and things like that. Yeah.
So yeah, revolving doors. What I mean, it's such a great image, and
Yeah.
I want to thank you for creating this album, for taking the time to create this album, for finally creating this album, because we need more new music out there that is honest, that is true, and that speaks to us on a level without a lot of fanfare, without a lot of, I call it special effects,
Yes.
and the simple, straightforward album like yours, like Revolving Albums, really does cut through all the bullshit. And that's really what I really appreciate this album for. It cuts through a lot of the bullshit, and it's just as honest as you can be. So thank you for creating this album.
Thanks for saying that, Jamie. That's so beautiful. It's just very humbling to hear you say that. Thank you. And I think, you would say this as well, as a musician and a performer, that we I can't really sing about anything that's not real. I
Yes.
think if I'm going to sing about something or write about something, it has to be something real and something really personal. or it wouldn't be convincing. Like I admire singers and performers who can sing anything. They can sing "Happy Birthday" and make it sound fantastic. I have trouble with that. I feel like for me it's a very emotional thing. I have to be able to feel it, and it has to be real in order to be convincing.
Well, when the world eases up a little bit and gigs can happen again, I can't wait to see how this is going to translate live with a band. I think that's going to be very exciting because that's when it takes a life of its own. That's why I'm a firm believer in actual live gigs, because it's a big difference between the recorded material and, yes, physically being there and seeing the artist perform it. But it does, in my experience, the songs that you listen to at home are completely different when
Yes.
played live, and I can't wait to see you play live.
Well,
So you
I'll let.
gotta, when things ease up and you can come home, do a gig. Or, hey, I've never been to Australia, so
Yeah, please. Please, I can't wait to also play the songs live. It's just a matter of getting a band together and being able to, with the pandemic and restrictions and all of that, being able
yes.
to get together in numbers and practice regularly. So yeah, that's I guess the next step, and that's the next dream, I suppose, that I can kind of try to
Yeah.
go for. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. All right, Sally, we're going to go into a quick rundown. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. And
Okay.
these are things that just, you can answer off the top of your head. All right. Okay, so my first question is, what is your favorite word?
Hmm. Conundrum.
Conundrum. Good word. Okay, what is your least favorite word?
Conundrum.
So they're both your favorite and your least favorite. Okay.
Yes, and isn't that a conundrum in itself? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I guess it depends on how it's used.
Yes. Yes. I just love it because it doesn't sound like what it means. I don't know. It
Yes,
sounds
actually.
like a musical instrument, like a drum. I don't
That's true.
know.
Okay, next question, Sally. What turns you on? What excites you?
Kindness,
Mm,
especially
good.
during these times.
Yes. Kindness is always a big plus. All right, what turns you off?
Uh, prejudice or bigotry,
Agreed.
racism, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, what sound or noise do you love?
Birds. Yeah, I love. We have
Mm,
beautiful birds in our neighborhood. In fact, I featured a bird at the start of Traces. It's very,
yes.
very faint. Because when I wrote the song, there was actually a bird in the background when I was recording it on my iPhone. So I decided to include it in the album. It wasn't exactly the same bird, but yeah, it was. Yeah, so
Good.
definitely the sound of birds.
All right, what sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, fingernails on a chalkboard. Doesn't everybody
Ah,
hate?
yeah. Ugh. I'm just imagining it and I'm cringing.
Exactly. I'm getting like, ooh, yeah.
All right. What is your favorite shower song?
Oh
Because we
God.
all sing in the shower. What is your go to, you know, song you sing in the shower?
Oh, if I had, well, gosh, anything. Okay, "Cherish" by Madonna. I don't know.
Ah, there you go. That's a good
What's
song.
a shower song? You're meant to answer these questions too, right?
No, I'm asking the questions,
Oh,
but
you're asking questions.
my shower song is always "The Way You Make Me Feel."
Oh, very nice.
So,
Very appropriate.
it's a nice uplifting, you're running the soap around you and the way you make me feel, Michael Jackson always puts me in a good mood.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So next question. What habit or behavior annoys you the most?
Um, I hate people who are like cheapskates. Like, yeah, kuripot. I'm thinking like,
Yes.
oh, I guess so conversely, and you were asking before, what's a behavior or something that excites me or turns me on is generosity. So
Hmm,
I guess the reverse of that when people are really stingy. I'm not just
true.
talking about money. I'm just talking in general.
Yes. All right. So next question. If you could collaborate with any artist, living or dead, who would that be?
Well, I'd love to have, if George Michael was still alive, I would love to have done a duet with him, or maybe done Nothing Looks the Same in the Light with him.
And I bet he would be amazed that, girl, this is a better version than mine. Yeah, but George Michael is what an amazing artist to collaborate with. The way he wrote, the way he sang with such emotion. Yeah, that would be a fantastic collaboration. All right. Last question. All right. When you do get to heaven, that's
What
going to
was
be a
that?
long time from now, but when you do get to heaven, what would you want God to say to you?
You did well.
And that's all we can really ask for, right?
Right.
Good job. You did
Good job.
well. Come on in. If I were
Yeah.
to answer this question, God would probably say, "Wait, Jamie, let me double check. I don't think you're on the list. Let me check."
And you're like, oh no, you're definitely meant to be here. So come on.
Come on in. Good job. And that's really all what we can really be expected to do is to do well. And really, more power to you, Sally. Thank you so much for your album, Revolving Doors, available on all streaming platforms. Are you do you intend to shoot videos for them soon?
Yes,
Because
that's the next step as well. I don't know, which song do you think would make a good video?
oh, really, the most impact. You should do Traces.
Traces. Okay.
You
Okay.
really should do because that is the track of the album. Traces is the track of the album, and that is going to resonate with so many people now who eventually, like you were just saying earlier, that you guys go in and out of lockdown,
Yes.
and it's something that everybody can relate to because some of us are still in lockdown.
Yes.
And I think if we can send a message to them that you are not alone, that we
Yes.
are feeling the same thing, that would go a long way in letting them realize that there's a way out.
Yeah.
So if you're
Sure.
gonna do a video, do Traces.
Okay. Now you'll be the first to know. Maybe make a guest appearance if you like.
Oh, hey, sure, I'd be happy to do it. All right, thank you so much, Sally, taking your time. And I know it's almost midnight; you got to get to work. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up, Sally Edwards. Thank you, Sally, and take care. Stay safe.
Thanks for having me, Jamie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's fantastic when you get to hear somebody's music and you actually get to talk to somebody who, to the person who made this music. It's such a big and meaningful thing because you see the stories behind the songs, and that's the whole purpose for this show. And if somebody can reinvent themselves, as is the theme of this particular episode, if you can reinvent yourself and repurpose yourself, other people have been able to do it, and so can you. So there is always hope out there. So, thank you so much, Sally Edwards, for your album Revolving Doors. I can't wait to hear more music from you. I'd like to thank also my dear friend Rosanna and her husband, Chef Ivan, who is the culinary director of Brotzeit, who has not only connected me with Sally and her music, but also thank you so much for sending me all, those delicious food. My God, it's amazing. So please check out Brotzeit. They're at the Shangri-La Mall on Shaw Boulevard and the Shangri-La at the Fort in BGC. Check out their Facebook and Instagram pages. My God, the food is amazing. And of course, they're a German restaurant. So naturally, there's a lot of meat in that on the menu. And I am a carnivore. So I particularly am going to make it a point to go over there and have a really good meal. So yeah, so going on with the theme of reinvention and reincarnation, our next guest is a band that I have always had fun playing with, jamming with, hanging out with, on stage, off stage. They're a great bunch of guys. And they're also, if you want a fast and loose musical experience when live gigs were happening, this is the band to see because they never play the same thing in the same way twice. And it's quite an amazing journey that this group has had. And it really is such a pleasure to have them on the rocks tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nathan, Nico, Miggy, and Nino Mendoza of the Blue Jean Junkies. What's up, guys?
Hey,
How you
Jamie.
doing? Biggie, you're dark. Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
I am loving how your hairdos are all like, weird. It's like, that's why I've been growing my hair also, guys, because I don't want to go get my hair cut. That's why it's been growing long. I'm still afraid of going to a barber during this pandemic. So parang your hair, especially Nino's, has grown out. How are you guys doing?
I got a
Good.
hair.
Yeah, Miggy, you cut your hair, but then
Yeah,
that's
I
because
chopped it off.
that's for practical purposes. You've been biking a lot lately,
No,
so
no,
it's
I
keeping
cut
your,
it because I brought my kid for a haircut, and he was like, "Dad, when are you gonna have a hair like a guy? Your hair is always like a girl." And I just kind of thought, "Wow, well, why not right now?" So
eh,
it's
nandito na ako eh.
on the spot. Yeah,
So how are you guys been doing? How has the pandemic been treating you guys, man? Let's start. Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yung pandemic basically was a chance to go back to because I've been working from home now before the pandemic because
Okay.
I work my day job is in IT, so the, wala masyadong change doon sa area na yun except yan ang nawala talaga is yung mga gigs.
Yeah. And
That's
that's the
the main
biggest
thing
thing,
that
diba? I mean,
yeah
China, we were all used to like, eventually letting our hair down and going and playing live and biglang nawala, no? So
yeah
mahirap. But I didn't know you were in IT, pare. You
yeah
never, I would only see you at gigs, and I'm like, you're the last person I would think to be in IT.
yeah 20-year IT career, so
All right.
that's my day job.
Nico, how are you? How has this pandemic been treating you?
You're on
Ah,
mute, I think.
you're on mute. Check your audio.
Oh, there.
Yan.
Yun. So yeah, last year, during the pandemic, I got retrenched last year because I was working for Hamilo Coast. It's a leisure development. So, syempre leisure, non-essential kami. So they had to take out people. So that was my time, because I was always out. I was always in Batangas. So at least I got to spend time at home, uh, read books. I got into Spotify, like really into Spotify during the pandemic, listening to all kinds of music. Then yeah, I'd jam in the studio once in a while just to practice drums in Kerplunk. I'd go early, like 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m., then jam. And then this year, I started a new job, a sales job in Arthaland. So
Nice.
yeah, started 2021 in a good what do you call it? Good start.
on a good note.
That's
Yeah,
really interesting. Like how we all got like for example, like I'm primarily in theater, guys, as you may know, right? And
yeah.
then of course I sing with the Blue Rats, before this pandemic happened, and I never really had a chance to discover new music until the pandemic hit
Yeah.
because I'm always
Yeah,
like learning songs that I have to do. So that
Tsaka
would be the
you
scope, diba?
Yeah, tsaka you find that yung playlist more sort of themed
it's the
more
same.
towards like how you spend your day. Like you have a driving playlist, and
Yeah,
suddenly all of your playlists don't work anymore. Kasi
yeah. Wala na. Your algorithm is so weird. Like my Spotify was freaking out because basically I would use it to learn my theater songs. And then when I started listening to new stuff, they're like the algorithm was like, I don't know what to suggest for you. Parang bumigay yung Spotify sa akin. But that's good. Miggy, how have you been doing, man?
I'm okay. The pandemic has not been too good to me. It started off with I had landed this job last year. Finally I landed my dream job, which was to work for
Wow.
this great production company. That was doing all sorts of events, not only musical, but they would launch car shows and things like that. But the pandemic hit before my first day on the job, and I got a call saying that we can no longer hire you. Meanwhile, I had resigned from my previous job in order to take that job.
Oh.
So kind of like, yeah, the pandemic was not good to me in the beginning, but I guess trying to be positive about it, like I guess I learned how to make some good out of that bad.
Well, if
Well,
anything,
how about
there's
it?
this pandemic has taught us basically how to, repurpose yourself, reinvent
Yeah.
yourself, and at the same time also figuring out things to do that keep you sane. And you've been doing a lot of biking.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I did to kind of like well, it's a commonly used term, and I don't even know if I'm using it correctly, but I got into biking in a way like to take care of my mental health,
Yeah.
because now suddenly I was jobless. I was always home. Well, like everyone, right? No one could go anywhere. And then I got into biking, and it allowed me an opportunity to listen to music, to clear my head, and to leave. To be able to have some me time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even with a job, right? I mean, maybe you're not alone, but it's still kind of like me time in a way because you're away from home,
Mhm.
which is what I kind of call me time, right? It's also kind of like why I really enjoyed being in a band as well, right? Because that's time you have with other people also. So it kind of widens your horizons. And biking allowed me to do that, and there's nowhere to go, but at least get on a bike and bike on roads. You're all by yourself. And it kind of like really allowed me to, see different places, go to places I hadn't been. So it allowed me a sense of travel, alone time, time to listen to music, which is something I'm sure we all greatly enjoy doing. So
No, and
yeah,
it's good, and it's good also because, like, you're actually taking care of your health physically. You're out in the
yeah,
sun, which
yeah,
is good and healthy. You know what I mean? That kills the COVID particles. Being outdoors and being under the sun,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. I even learned how to wake up early, because biking early in the morning is better than any other time of day. So sometimes I'm up at 4:30 in the morning and I'm out the door by 5.
That's fantastic. That's such a different
Yeah,
lifestyle from when you were with
super,
the band, man.
super, super. Before, you go to bed at 4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you
Or you
come
go to
home
bed
at
at
five.
6.
You
Yeah,
come
you
home
Yeah,
come
at
home at
5.
5, diba?
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
let's go to Nino. Nino, how have you been, man? You have repurposed yourself during this pandemic.
What was that? I have been.
Yeah, yeah. How have you been? You've repurposed yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, Nino Mendoza is, the founder of the Misty Mountain Cafe. He's one of our sponsors on this show. His coffee is amazing, and he's actually really, really particular about, you know, um, the coffee that he sends out. I mean, I've gotten into arguments with Nino, about like what kind of blends is bagay, and the blends that he recommends for me actually work better than what I would think I would like. So, you've repurposed yourself. And so that means, that's a great tale of resilience and repurposing during this pandemic. But what have your challenges been over this pandemic, Nino?
Well, I couldn't be any more grateful aside from, I mean, for obvious reasons that, because of the pandemic, a lot of people are dying. I mean, life goes on. This pandemic allowed me to see my potentials and flex my abilities in other kinds of business, other than when before the pandemic when I was gigging every other day, whether with the Blue Jean Junkies or solo gigs or DJ gigs. I had to, and then I moved out of Sanlo, in
Of your parents' house, yeah, of your parents,
Barrett
yeah.
Place. Yeah, took me what 46 years to move out, huh? Except for the
Well,
time when I was married for a couple of years.
no,
So
dude,
anyway,
in that sense, Nina, in that sense, like if I could go back in time, I would delay moving out from my parents' house for as long as possible as well.
I
Right?
know.
Because like all the things you have to do when you move out, you're like, huh? I have to pay the Morocco bill? What the hell?
Exactly. And
Right?
I believe it was a calling, and aside from destiny, that I just had to do it. When you just have to do something. Of course, what paid off was okay. Here's one good thing. Since I stopped drinking and I stopped drugs, okay,
Mm.
I got to save a lot of money and set it aside in a separate in a separate bank account that served all throughout the years. What before 7 years, 6 years, I was doing that from gigging every other day.
Yeah.
And then one day I woke up, hey, this is a capital to start with. It's enough
Yeah.
to give me vuelo. It's enough to give me leeway. And I saw a practical opportunity of moving out, of renting a place for a song. You know, you know, in a way of, aside from being fully independent, because every movement you make, it always costs, right?
Yeah.
Even like getting up in the morning, I'm hungry. It ain't like I'm gonna go to the table and then it's all set. Like buhay prinsipe, like Sanlo, di ba? It's all set there. You know, I go to the kitchen. There's like food armed to the teeth. Like it never runs out of food. You
Senorito.
know, all what I need to
Señorito.
I was like a house cat who was a musician. And, for my own confidence and to not lose my self esteem, I would contribute here once in a while, even though if I wasn't pressured to work, so I really did this for myself, for my own personal standards. And I saw the opportunity from a good friend that said, who told me, if you want a change of perspective, I have a place. So, so we came up with a good deal, where he benefits and I benefit. And at the same time, I take care of his needs here in the Philippines. He's based in LA. As a matter of fact, he backed me up, and I stayed with him for a couple of days, in a couple of weeks in LA. And that's where we created a bond. And he said, Nita, if you want a change of perspective in life, I think the way he saw me also was like, you got to get out of your box, son.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I mean that's
you
what's
keep
nice
on
about.
playing live gigs, but I'm gonna do you a favor. It's up to you if you're gonna take it or not. I'm gonna give this to you for a song. Okay, until you get on your feet, you establish yourself, which is happening because when you live alone. When I was living alone, especially when you're living literally alone, you kind of tend to think more. And sometimes I have a tendency to overthink. I kind of feed the black wolf sometimes as much as I want to feed the white wolf of positivity. And this, it's like, okay, I'm good for this month, but what about the third month, the fifth month, the seventh month, this year and that year?
No,
Until
well,
I learn.
it's a good thing, Nino. It's a good thing, Nino, that you actually moved out and did this thing before the pandemic, because you were now, being self-sufficient and figuring all this out it was a different mindset in terms of, like, when you're living in your parents' house, and you would wake up and there's food on the table. Just that whole mindset of, like, hey man, I gotta hustle today. I gotta make sure I make,
Yeah.
I gotta make some things to cover what I have to eat, what I have to, your basic necessities. I think it's in that mindset in terms of being a musician, and you guys have been musicians for a long time. In terms of, like, living day to day by your gigs versus, okay, I need a day job so I can support my gigs. And unfortunately, I mean, in this environment here, in at least in Manila, or in the Philippines at least, you always need some sort of day job to support your artistic pursuits. That's the same thing in theater. That's why I always tell people, don't go into theater if you're not prepared to starve, because you're gonna starve, right? But you're gonna be happy. So it's a balance between both, right? And of course, in the midst of all these daily struggles that you're doing, you have an opportunity to create music. You have an opportunity to make people who, the people who come and watch your gigs, you give them an opportunity to feel better, at least for 1 or 2 hours of their time. They feel good, they forget their problems, and you're forgetting your problems because you're busy rocking the stage, you know and that's fantastic. Individually, I just want to figure out individually, because I never had the opportunity to ask you guys this when I'd be playing for you. And I understand, like, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't understand, the Blue Jean Junkies is sort of like a collective. There are a lot of different members who play when other members are not available. I am an honorary Blue Jean Junkie member as well, and it's just a rotation of people who are like-minded in a sense of playing blues rock based music, right? But I never had an opportunity. These guys here, this combination of the Blue Jeans Junkies, the reason why I invited you on my show is you guys are my favorite combination. So Nathan on guitar,
Nice.
Nico on drums, Miggy on bass, and you guys are my favorite combination because it was so much fun playing with you guys. I would never know like what's gonna happen on stage.
Neither do we.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
neither do we.
that's the best part because we're all trying to figure this out together, and we're all in the moment together. And sometimes that's when the best music comes
Yeah,
out, when the best jams come out, when we don't know how we're gonna end this, and we're all
yeah.
looking at each other, and we're all like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
I don't know.
When you
let's
see
see where,
this,
yeah, yeah, let's see where it carries you.
Yeah,
Your leg.
your
Oh,
description I
Nathan,
used to use for it was
Okay. It's the leg.
I would always
Leg.
describe it as throwing yourself down a flight of stairs and then trying to land on your feet.
Yeah,
Kapag
that's a
workout,
brilliant
that's
description.
exactly it.
exactly. If there's turbulence, just as long as the landing at the end is
It's
good
good.
with a
Yeah.
yeah,
bang,
that's all you have to worry about. Stick the landing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
stick
mean,
the
you're
landing.
alive.
Okay, but I never got to ask you guys this individually. All right. So now that I have you on my show and you guys are a captive audience, right? I get to ask this individually of you. So let's start with Nathan. Nathan, what music did you grow up listening to? And what led you to the guitar?
That it was a lot of well, yung records and dad ko that would be playing. That would be like Elton John, Billy Joel, stuff like that. Stuff from the 70s. What was sort of pop rock in the 70s. So it was a lot of Elton
Wait,
John.
Nathan, that's really weird. You just mentioned two piano-based artists.
Yeah,
How the hell did
that
you get to the guitar?
that's what my dad was listening to. So that's what I ended up listening to. And I would always gravitate towards yung songs nila with prominent guitar parts.
Okay.
But the only thing that really got me into guitar was Guns N' Roses. So
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
Appetite for Destruction was like, okay, that's the end. This is what I'm gonna be. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to play. I mean, back then I was playing piano, or my mom was trying to get me into piano. Pero Appetite for Destruction was all right. Wala ka ng
It's
choice. Eh.
so it's so weird, no? Like how your parents always encouraged a musical instrument. Like
Yeah,
I'm the youngest of four kids, and my sisters went through piano lessons, and it didn't stick. So by the time I came around, they said, no, let's not give him piano lessons anymore because he's a guy. That's not gonna stick. And I'm the one who ended up in the band. So I'm thinking, wow, if I knew how to play the piano, that would have been an advantage. But it didn't stick. So when you listen to Guns N' Roses, ano ka, so Slash or Easy?
back then when I was starting out, I didn't know who was doing what. Eh. I just I just wanted the guy who had yung cool look. So it was the guy in the top hat. So
Yeah, yeah.
Slash.
I didn't know who was playing what, but he looked cool to me. So
So and that led you into the journey of rock and roll.
yeah, that was it.
Then roll.
What about you, Nico? Nico, what did you listen? What did you grow up listening to?
Me, it's a mix of different stuff. So, yeah, same rin. Like with Nathan, my dad was listening to mga jazz stuff, like mga Acoustic Alchemy, George Benson. So I'd
Wow.
listen to that, and then some of my aunts would listen to Three Dog Night,
Nice.
Elton John. So it was a mix of stuff. And then with my brother, my older brother, he was listening that time to mga Metallica, Guns. So yeah, I got into drums when I first heard Master of Puppets. So I was like, wow, ang galing nitong song na tong Master of Puppets. Lalo na yung first track, Battery.
Oh,
Battery.
right,
I was
man.
like, wow, that's so
Ryan.
fast, so heavy. I got into that, and
Right.
then when I saw Whenever I May Roam, the video of Whenever I May Roam, and then you see Lars Ulrich drums, ang dami, tapos talagang he's really hitting it hard. I was like, wow, I want that one. I want to do that. Diba?
And that's
So
what
yeah,
led you to the drums,
yeah,
metallic.
to the drums, yeah. And then I
Interesting.
had phases also. I had phases like I had a Doors phase, I had a Steely Dan phase, Jimi Hendrix. Uh, then yeah, when I met these guys or the Junkies, that's when I got into mga Rolling Stones naman. Rolling Stones, Johnny Winter, David Bowie. So yeah, it was a bunch of stuff. I mean, a mix talaga.
Interesting. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the influences. I would never have imagined though that Metallica was the one that got you into the drums. So
I don't know.
that's an interesting, take on this.
Uh,
Mickey, what about you? What did you grow up listening to?
So my mom listened to a lot of music. My dad not so much. My mom would play a lot of everything from Linda Ronstadt to Elvis.
Wow.
So being a kid, you just hear it. You don't really pay much attention to it, or you think you're not paying attention to it. As I got a little bit older, I think the first artist I realized that I discovered and liked on my own was Billy Joel. Um,
Nice.
Listened to him for a while, and then I think when I really fell in love with music was probably in my early teens, and that was the introduction of Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and AC/DC, those guys. And then shortly after that, I discovered Led Zeppelin. I think it might have been because of Nino. We were friends since we were kids. Um,
Fourth grade.
yeah, was it fourth grade?
Fourth
Anyway,
grade.
Wow, fourth grade.
yeah.
What music do you listen to? I'm gonna get along with you.
And then what was funny was I went backwards in time. Parang from my discovery of Led Zeppelin, I started listening to older and older music. Like I was falling in love with music from earlier days. So Led Zeppelin led to the Doors, led to I guess like mga Rolling Stones, and then further back all the way to. I remember at one point I was listening to so much like Billie Holiday, from like 1920s. I was just in love with like this sound, and like the emotions that these tunes would bring out in me. So I could listen to a really really sad song, and instead of feeling sad, I would feel so happy because I was able to realize that wow, this piece of music touched me in such a way that I didn't even know, and it brought me joy. I mean, I wasn't a sad kid, but I enjoyed listening to sad music because suddenly music was opening these doors in my heart that I never even knew existed. Um,
It's very interesting when you mention that, like going back in time. I've always thought that music was sort of a time machine.
yeah,
In terms of like, when you find a band that you really like, you listen to what they listen to, and then you
right,
listen to what they listen to, and then go
yeah.
backwards and backwards to figure out, and then when you go back to this, the I would call it the seed or the root band that made you fall in love with this music.
yeah,
It's a newfound appreciation because all of a sudden you're hearing their influences. This is where he got this. This is where he got
right,
this.
right, exactly.
And it's interesting because like music, listening to music and especially playing music is such an education. I think it's the only education that I can see that also involves so much fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand because can you imagine like, oh, I have to. That's why I love doing the show. Oh, I have to listen to music. Yay!
yeah,
Right? Great. I
Great.
have to
Yeah.
research. I have to research on a band. Awesome. I've been doing that for years. You know what I mean? Because it really leads you down the 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 very winding road of people's influences.
yeah,
And it also helps you figure out why you like what you like, you know?
yeah.
In terms of whether it be like I have a deep love for Billy Joel, which I was growing up with. I was must have been like 12 or 13. My One of my best friends back then was really into Billy Joel. And this was before I discovered like, guitar and the sexiness of rock and roll. This was just music at its purest form because this was before MTV, before the visual element of music, right? And Billy Joel made me fall in love with the stories that he would tell in his songs. And then when you discover, bands like the Stones and Led Zepp and the Doors, these are just different stories, and you have different instrumentation. And that's what I love about music, is because it makes you, it's a time machine that you can step in, and you step into a time machine and you go back and see your friends, you know.
Yeah.
And
Like
that's
instead of out, diba?
yeah, you know. Nino, what did you grow up listening to? What was the music of your household?
Well, yeah, like Miggy said, eventually it became we shared cassette tapes. But no, before that, it's because I learned how to play guitar chords because of the Jingles Beatles songbook from Please Please Me all the way to the last album, Abbey Road. Since I knew all the songs, and when you first get turned on to it in your early teens, it's like I love this. The bliss of listening to it. Each and every word and line and melody. So once you stumble upon a Beatles songbook, I got the chart and learned how to play the A, B, C, D, E, F, G chords. I didn't even know the minors or the majors. So I would play it sounding like that. And eventually, from the Beatles, it developed to the usual. I believe I was always a classic rock soul, because when I would go to the park, the people playing basketball there, who were the friends of my brother, they were in college in UP, and I was there in my BMX and my skateboard, and I would always want to hang around with them, and be like, I want to be where the elder boys are. So, they would eventually. My first cassette tape, there you go, was 74 Jailbreak, AC/DC, Kiss Animalized, and Live Evil of Black Sabbath 1 and 2, which I bought in front of Quad SM. When you go up the stairs,
all the younger people, watching now, is like, what's quad?
What the heck is he talking about?
okay.
No, but I remember the record bar there. I remember the record bar.
Yeah, and then after that, I would look at the records there, and I would be like, yeah, what's this? Devil music, and it's Ozzy Bark at the Moon, like that. And then I would always, because from the entrance of Shoemart, when you go up the stairs, like the record bar is there already. And you stumble upon not the A first, it's the Z.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
And I would always look at this Uriah Heep album, Abomino, with this goblin there with fans. But I never bought it. I went into like the mga Black Sabbath, all because of my brother's friends who were playing basketball in the park, that were listening to like, Metallica, Black Sabbath, Wasp, Hanoi Rockers, Twisted Sister, AC/DC, stuff like that, Iron Maiden. So they were like, okay, so eventually,
it's funny. It's funny when you mention that you're getting all into this heavier stuff, but I never would have suspected that the root of it is the Beatles.
yeah, the Beatles eventually, then Led Zeppelin 4 and then 2, because Led Zeppelin 2, somebody lent me a Led Zeppelin 2 tape, the white USA. That's why it's white cassette tape.
White cassette imported.
All white, pare, imported. Tapos naka-print mismo yung mga songs.
Yeah, the Sanyo transistor, and I would just lay down, pucha, and then smoke pot, and then listen to from side A, Whole Lotta Love, all the way to Bring It On Home. And then whenever Ano would play, and if I say to you tomorrow, when you're like in school and when you're high on pot, nagmamature pa yung utak mo niyan. So, not like I'm proud of it, pero nalagyan na ng THC. So it's like, Putang lakas nito. Fuck. What do you want to be when you grow up, Nino? When my parents made me see a counselor who was a brother, I think, who was a pastor. Because they were like, you know what? He's always sleeping in school and he's always late and absent. He just wants to watch whatever, Voltes 5 or Groovy Ghoulies. So what happened was, Groovy Ghoulies. So what happened was, the counselor spoke to me and said, it seems like, you're not fond of school, grade school pa ito. So, and he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or when you get, I said, I want to be a musician. And then, well, to be a musician, you need to go to school. You need to prepare for college so you can enroll in music. What kind of music do you listen to? Motley Crue. And then
Shout at the devil.
he looked at my parents and he looked at me and he's like, okay, now I can see that look in his eye. At first I didn't, but when I saw him, the look in his eyes was like, oh, your son is going to get into drugs.
Your son's going straight to hell.
But, because he was a Jesuit who graduated from Ateneo and became like a brother.
Yeah.
So more or less, he knows these things.
He knows.
Come to think of it, that look in his eye when he looked at my parents, and I was like, what, grade 3, grade 4? It's like, Motley Crue. I say, oh, okay, but you still need to go to college to, Pero inside him, it's like, oh boy, this guy's in for a debauchery roller coaster.
So wait, so Nino, from talking to the brother and knowing from grade 3 or grade 4, right? Listening to all this music and you wanted to be a musician. What led to you creating the Blue Jean Junkies? What was that moment where, okay, I'm going to put the band together?
Like, it's kind of choppy. Could you take 2 on me?
Okay, what led you to creating the Blue Jean Junkies? From knowing that you wanted to be a musician very early on, what led to the creation of the Blue Jean Junkies?
Okay, I'm gonna run this by as fast as I could.
Here we go.
Because I am a
The rest of the band is going, okay, this is the 3-hour speech.
First, this is gonna be
Best to
really
get comfortable.
first band situation 2, opening for Intro Voice at a hole in the wall called Club Dread Lower Timog. A bunch of bands were playing there. My band was Situation 2. You got the Razorheads, you got Mutiny, you got the Youth, you got Color It Red, you got Anna Domini, and all these other bands there. Miggy would be with me there because Miggy was like an acting road manager already of the band, because we opened for Intro Voice because Paco was our neighbor. We were playing all Black Sabbath, Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Winter songs in 2 originals. Then he was like, I'm going to give you guys your first break. You're going to open for us in Club Dread. In one condition, you have to have 2 originals. Anyway, we came up with originals.
Oh, Club Dread, dapat may original.
1990, 91, and 92.
Is that the Club Dread in EDSA?
Right?
No,
Maybe,
Timog.
No, this is Timog, the old Club Dread.
Timog, yes.
Previously known as Red Rock.
I would watch the Eraserheads play White Rabbit kasi pare yung banda na nag-Jefferson Airplane, pare, White Rabbit. And then we'll be there. So, iba version nila. So
Okay,
anyway,
so fast forward,
moving forward, I eventually ended up in a band from the boys of Mutiny and Anna Domini that became Rat Salad, members of Mutiny and Anna Domini. After that was defunct, they got me to play a band with Edmond Fortuno, Rico Velez of Coco Jam, and Miyagi, the wife of Edmund Fortuno, of
Emmy.
vocals, me, and Celeste Bueno, and then
Oh,
Heli
yeah.
Waki on guitars, the guitar player of Lolita Carbon.
Yes.
So we're all there. We probably 3 years we were together playing in this left alone jazz bar beside Hit Productions.
Left alone, which became Metallic Banana.
Yes. Then Pepe got out of jail. When Pepe got out of jail, Carl Roy took, oh shit, man. I'm gonna fast forward because there's a lot of tales in this.
Matagal lang yan.
Oh, matagal to.
Matagal
Carl
yan.
Roy took me to Pepe's house. We were there playing darts. And eventually, things led. Fast forward again. Okay, we'll do another segment. Fast forward again. Then the Blue Jean Junkies. 1998, me and Chuck Fournier would be writing songs already because Chuck Fournier's office was in Legazpi. People know that Chuck Fournier was from Anna Domini and Mutiny.
Oh.
They're all, and then, UP boys, FA UP boys. So, and then,
Oh, nag-comment si Ellie, White Rabbit. I just had a flashback. talking to Nino, you're gonna get a flashback because
there you go.
we went from Club Dread, Timog, cassette tapes, quad, all the way. Now, okay, so continue.
Oh, yes. Speaking of a flashback, Ellie, remember Robbie Sunico would always tell me and Miggy in Club Dread Lower Timog, don't drink beer in the streets. The cops might see you and they're gonna close us down. You guys are underage. Back upstairs. With the
You guys were underage, man.
Yeah, we were kids.
We were
Oh
kids
my
there
God.
back then, di ba? Yeah.
The first time
Kids
I met
started
Rob, but in the first few times I met Rob, he was only shouting at me.
Shout at everyone.
Yeah.
You can dance, but no jumping.
Oh, Ellie says he says that to everyone. Okay, so basically, Rob would even shout at me, and I wasn't even playing that night. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why the hell are you shouting at me?
Exactly.
You know?
Okay, going back to your question, because the
I'll
people,
go.
viewers might say, hey, he didn't answer your question, Jamie. He's
Okay, so the creation of Blue Jean Junkies.
Creation of Blue Jean Junkies. Chuck Fournier, after work, around 6 o'clock, would go to the house, bring a 6-pack of Red Horse beers, then we would write songs. And then this was like 98. Our first gig was in Cousin Hoagie's show at 107.5 The Crossroads.
Yes.
Eventually, Enzo Lim entered as the second guitar player. Well, as the guitar player, no first or second. Tony Bernardo on drums. Edwin Coco Coo on bass, because I saw him, he was like 17 years old, walking in front of Verve Nakpil. Pare, tugtog ka sa akin, ha? Tugtog ka sa Blue Jean Junkies. Me? Yeah, tugtog ka sa akin. Tawagan kita bukas. Taga Magallanes ka, di ba? Oo, tawagan kita. I'm gonna pass.
So Nino, what was your set list? What was your set list of Blue Jean Junkies? What was your set list?
The set list was all originals. Mostly all
Nice.
originals. Yes. And then eventually, Miss Coco was a guitar player. He just said, I forget who played bass. Yeah, it was Coco for a long time, and then John Brown entered. Anyway, I know I'm going to respect the members in this chat group and not dwell too much on that lineup. Okay?
Wasn't it Sumgo?
Yeah, it was Zoom.
Wow.
Yes, it was Zoom. It was Zoom. Eventually, it became Zoom, and then it became Lao of Mutiny. They would interchange because Zoom would gallivant with another girl, riding the path.
Gallivant.
Galapan talaga.
He would gallivant. We had a gig in Palawan. He would bring her along, and then they would just be locked in the room for like days, not sleeping. Not sleeping.
Okay,
Anyway,
so
that was then. Now we have our own lives to live, and everybody's doing all right. But we're here now.
No, but it's-
And
It's funny though. It's funny though because like you have a lot of reiterations. And like I said earlier, the Blue Jean Junkies is like a collective of like-minded people, and I guess curious souls. But we have a question here from Gold. Gold soon. What makes
I
a
go.
junkie? What makes a blue jean junkie? Not what makes a junkie, huh? What makes a blue jean junkie? Like when you decided to recruit Nathan and Nico. Oh, let's hear naman. Nathan, how did Nino approach you?
Uh,
Pare, ikaw tutugtog ka sa akin.
parang ganun eh. So, it was a little bit like that din eh. Na parang,
Pray for me.
na, I can't remember what it was like, pero I think within that yung first conversation namin, he already had a gig. Na parang, you're gonna be playing with me on this night. And 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 yung guy who actually introduced me to Nino was Bitoy Milan, was in drummer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, at
So
Freedom Park.
yeah, so yun.
Yeah.
Pero yeah, that's how I met them. And then yung first time we spoke, he already had a gig for me and he sent me songs to learn. And I think yung first gig na I played with the Junkies was yung first din ni Nico. Kasi yung funny thing
Yeah,
is yung
sabay tayo.
yeah. So yung guy who introduced me to the band suddenly quit before that
Yeah.
first gig. So I was
Yeah.
suddenly, what am I gonna do? I'm in the band, but the guy who brought me into the band is no longer in the band.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, yeah. So
We were very good friends with another guitar player also who played with Blue Jean, Zach Pacificador, who
yeah,
loved
si Zan.
black
San
metal.
Pacificador.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, who is now attorney, Zan
Yes, attorney.
Pacificador.
Wow.
Attorney.
He's attorney.
So basically, na-shotgun ka into a gig, Nathan.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Kasi may tugtog na, and then you found yourself the guy who got you into
But
this
it
gig.
looks like it happens to a lot of people, pala. It's a normal thing. So, yeah.
It's normal.
No, because I mean, honestly, with credit to Nino, that's a really great way to get somebody to play for you. It's not open ended. No, we're playing here on this day.
Yeah.
These are the songs you have to learn. Game ka ba? And that's good.
Uh,
Pero paano nahagilap si Nico?
ako di ko
Maybe.
maalala eh. Pero I
Yung-
remember meeting Nino. I met Nino before. My friend auditioned for Blue Jean Junkies. Remember that, Nino? We went to your house with my friend, si Gabby Gonzalez. We went to your house. And then, you're like, oh, sige, gitara. Oh,
Afternoon.
sige. Afternoon.
Yeah, rocket flight, baby.
It was like 3 hours of just guitars to guitars. Ako nandyan lang, tambay, But I don't remember how you recruited me. Baka through Maggie.
I think it was through me because you and I were working together at
Yeah,
Purple
Triple.
Studios.
And then Bitoy, you told me Bitoy
Yeah.
left, and then he had a gig the
The
night.
drummer was needed.
Next night or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Buti na lang, I knew most of the songs. Kasi mga Doors that time yata you guys were playing at Doors.
I think that's why I think I might have invited you to audition, or I don't know, but it was never my decision to put you in the
gig.
band. But I knew that you knew the songs of the set, and I thought you would be a good fit since
Which
number
would be
one-
the most practical thing
Right.
to do. Kasi
Right.
alam mo na yung kabisado na may
We
yung
need
kanta eh.
for Bitoy, right? Because Bitoy had other priorities. Bitoy Milan, Patrick Milan. Because we've been playing together with him with Zan.
Yeah,
So it's like, who's going to play? And then Miggy brought in Nico. It was really Miggy
yeah.
who brought in Nico. And then Nico went to the house one afternoon, right?
Yeah, one afternoon.
Yeah.
And then Nico stayed. And then Nico stayed.
No, this is the longest. Guys, I would like to ask permission from the four of you
3.
before I get quite
Four.
carried away with it, because I would like to give credit where credit is due.
I'll
So I would like to just acknowledge those people who were in-house junkies once upon a time in this roller coaster ride of the Blue Jean Junkies, who were the members, right? Drums: John Brown, Sumgo, Lau, King Baldos, Lauren Orendine, Kakoy Gaspi, Bong Lennon, and Nonong
Lennon.
Nonong.
June Lupito's band. Eventually, when these two got fed up with me because of, you know how it is in vicious. The only guy who stuck with me was Nathan and Pucha. Obviously, the two rhythm sections were Kenon and Donong. Hoo-wee! Parang expensive winos. Photo finish. If it weren't for Nathan, we would fit in 30 minutes. Nathan would be texting us and say, magna 9 o'clock na, nasa na kayo? And we're
So Nathan, ikaw yung pinaka-responsible sa banda, ikaw ba?
siya yung pinaka-responsible.
Siya.
Tuning our guitars, the ritual of tuning guitars.
Yeah.
The strings go up and down, and it gets kind of foggy. So it's like then we show up, we're like sweating because we were in a rush.
Tuning.
We were in a rush. I mean, we didn't want to be late.
You didn't want to show up out of tune, diba?
Yeah.
So wait, so basically, okay, so we know how Nathan got recruited, and Nico got like kidnapped. But Miggy, you were like recruited into this friendship since grade 4,
Yeah, we were in school together.
and then which led to playing the light, which led to being in Club Dread, getting shouted at by Rob.
Yeah.
And recruiting Nico and going through pretty much a lot of the permutations of the Blue Jean Junkies, and dealing with Nino for all these years, because Nino, God bless him, God bless you, Nino. I love you dearly, but he's a handful.
Love you.
He's a
I
handful.
can be a handful, and ever since I stopped my vices, the more I'm OC. I'm very OC,
But
Total
Mickey,
opposite. Before I didn't care. They're the ones who have to pry me out of bed. They even had to pry me out of the NU Rock Awards when we were nominated. Coco had to pick me up literally and carry me, pry me out like he was a shovel. And it's like, come on, man, it's support. I don't care. I mean,
wait, so Miggy, wait, going back to Miggy, who's had the longest tenure in dealing with Nino. All right. And I don't want to deal with the stories of Nino. The longest tenure. Yeah, he's had tenure. He's been dealing with you since grade 4. But okay, so Miggy, when you decide to play bass and
Okay.
go on this, roller coaster ride, the Blue Jean Junkies, what would be the best gig that you've ever played with the Junkies? The gig that stands out?
Wow.
I know there's been a lot.
I mean, there's hundreds.
Yeah. But
Um,
what if you can pick one?
Whew, wow. Gosh. Opening for Dishwala is a memorable one.
Wow. Yeah.
Because that one for me was one of our larger audiences, and it was also the night that I realized that I could feed off an audience. The
Okay.
other gigs in, let's say, smaller bars, parang I felt like those gigs it was the band being a band and playing amongst ourselves, and there happened to be people there. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
yeah, but opening for Dishwala, parang I could really see that we were connecting to the audience. They weren't talking to each other; they were watching and listening to us. Basti was even on the side of the stage, standing by himself, watching the whole set. So I knew that I can't call it my favorite, right? But definitely one of the more memorable ones, because it opened my eyes to suddenly realizing that I'm finally experiencing something millions of other musicians have all the time that I never had before. So I think that makes it memorable in that way. But I think my favorite gigs are the out of town shows. We went to Baguio. We
Back
when we
then,
went to
With Pepe, diba?
with Pepe, yeah, and then we'd come pa from Sagada where we played for a wedding. So Baguio was a nice one.
Vietnam was fun, man.
Which one?
Yeah, Vietnam. Yeah,
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam. Yeah,
Vietnam,
we did a 3-night tour
Singapore.
in Vietnam. That one was it's Nuts wasn't able to come to that one, but that
No,
was something else. We played 3 different nights in 3 different venues to 3 different sets of
setup.
audiences.
Even the setups
Wow.
were different.
Yeah, apparently the first night we played for the expats. The second night we played for expats and locals in this kind of posh bar. And the third night
Bar,
we
yeah.
played to only locals, like people who had never even like it seemed as if they'd never even seen a harmonica before.
Wow.
So that was yeah, I agree. Vietnam's probably the best shows we played.
How long were you guys there?
We were
1
there
week.
for longer than we
One,
should have been.
yeah, 1 week. It was
We
like
played 3
Chinese New
consecutive
Year.
nights, so we were gone at least a week, or I don't know.
A
How
week,
do
a
you know,
week,
Nico?
a week, a week.
A week. Okay.
Yeah,
9 days.
9 days. Oh, you
Right.
remember?
Tapos dire-diretso kayo. Dire-diretso kayo kasi out of town yan. Dire-diretso
Yeah, pero
kayo.
3 consecutive nights lang yung gig. So the other days
Ah.
and nights was just like,
Party.
I mean, we found
Going out, man. Going out. in
Nico
different
and I
bars.
found a cafe where they were selling like pot under the table, but we were allowed to smoke it there. We
Wow.
found and then like we would tour around Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah. So Vietnam was a lot of fun. So yun,
Yeah,
again,
parang it looks like Nico has a lot of fond memories of Vietnam. Look at the smile on his face. It's like, yeah, brother, Vietnam.
Yeah.
so
Had
yun
to
ang
drag
Vietnam.
out me that time also, diba? Had to wake you up, scoop you, get you to the airport, remember?
That's right. Yeah. And Nina's first night in Vietnam, he was so sungit. He was just
Why?
he borrowed the computer and internet of this bar that we found so that he could
What's that?
yeah, remember, Nino, you spent like an hour composing a new Facebook status message.
Oh,
And Nico and I were like, fuck this, man, we're gonna go
Yeah,
upstairs
let's go
where the
out.
beers are.
When we have a round of 333 beer.
ba ba ba, ba
Ba,
ba
ba,
ba.
ba.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, like, I mean, you've had hundreds of gigs, and in many different places and all that. Let's talk about the album. All right. When you go into the Blue Jean Junkies 2, which is available on all streaming platforms. Right, here I am. I'm slurring already because putana, this mellow corn fucking drink is fucking strong. Huh? Okay, so I'm slurring. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm officially drunk. But okay, so going into the Blue Jean Junkies 2 album and going into the recording studio with were these songs written already before you went in? How did this second album and the one that is, I think, definitive with the energy and the vibe of Blue Jean Junkies? How did this album come about?
I think Nino should take this.
Wait, it's
No.
kind of choppy. How did the
Or
definitive?
the album.
How did your
what?
album? How did the Blue Jean Junkies 2 album come about? Did you have the songs? Did
Two
you?
albums? The songs
Yeah.
were all recorded. Like about 40% of the songs were all recorded in different years that we had to search for in the files, because Blue Jean Junkies was always known for, like, it wouldn't be as consistent as it was when 2014 to 2000 to this present day.
Yeah.
It was always a hiatus of, we recorded a song and then it would get shelved. So when we had the opportunity to release the album, we had to dig it all up, right? Like Freeway Man was recorded at Kerplunk at Pat Albuena's place, where Miggy and Nico were working, because it
Okay.
was a single at a compilation called
Yeah, it was in one of the Kerplunk compilations.
Yeah.
Right?
The green
Okay.
cover. I can't remember the title.
yeah.
Yeah.
something like that. What's the name of that? What's this thing? The compilation with Quan and everybody there with Enemies of
Yeah.
Saturn.
Okay, so you had to dig that up. Did you do anything new to it?
And then we also three of the songs or one of the songs was because when Miggy was working with Odyssey, he managed to pull this deal with Globe that they would pay for the entire recording. So we ended up recording in Wombworks, which Globe took care of
Okay.
because I was always broke at that time. And what's this? What else? We came up with Destinations
Destination.
because of Globe and Fine Company. We came up
Okay.
with that was also in Wombworks that we had to dig up. That wasn't even the final mix. What's in the album of Fine Company? What's in the album of Blue Jean Junkies 2 was just a study mix of
Wow.
Louis Talan. I'll
Okay.
give you a study mix. I'll keep everything in the middle. But it sounded so good already that we said, let's go with this. It wasn't even the final mix. It wasn't even mastered yet. That was really a study mix, right, Miggy? It
Yeah.
was Kapoy, Bitoy
Yeah.
Milan, Miggy, and me. So, but the thing is, it just so happened, it was synchronicity that the levels were all, it is what it is, and it sounds good, and that's
What
good enough.
about okay? So what about Funhouse?
That's not on the album.
That wasn't on the album.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
The
single, right?
only the
Just
only
singles.
song that
That's
was
just
recorded
recent.
specifically for that album was "Take It Easy."
Take it
"Take
easy.
It
Ah,
Easy"
Yeah.
was recorded with Yellow
Oh,
Room. That
yeah,
was the
Yeah.
only song that we recorded specifically for that album.
Yeah.
Everything
wow.
else was from years before.
I remember going to the launch in this what was that bar called in
12 monkeys
12
yeah 12
Monkeys.
monkeys, but back when it was
in
in Circuit.
Century. Yeah.
Diba?
Century.
In Century, yeah, it was in
Yeah.
Century.
Century Mall.
And I remember, getting to the launch and hearing these songs and seeing your interaction um, on the stage when you guys were playing, and of course, inevitably in the spiels of Nino in between, right? And I couldn't help but think I was actually talking to Francis Reyes outside
Mm.
when we were having a cigarette, and it's like, "Tayo na pare, it feels like these guys are where they should be at this point in time, at this moment. This is where they should be." And the music, the energy, specifically the energy of the music, was so good, and the energy of you guys also were so good that we thought, these guys are exactly where they should be. And I had no idea that these songs were from fucking years back pala. But that night was an amazing night because we hadn't heard from the Blue Jean Junkies in a while, and it was so wonderful to actually be able. I bought my copy of the album that night, and it was so nice to actually bring home a piece of you guys and listen to it back when I had a CD player. Kasi wala na akong CD player ngayon. Lahat sira. It was
You
so
know,
nice.
you know,
It was
you
so
know,
nice to be able to bring a piece of you guys home and listen to it and have that energy at home. The energy that I usually enjoy when I'm out in a bar watching you guys. And that was fantastic. But I had no idea that these songs were all from years and years before that pala.
Yeah, some of
yeah,
some of them I think existed before this lineup. Because I remember "Destination" was one of the songs asked
Yeah.
Nino asked me to study for my first gig.
Wow.
So
Wow.
"Destination" was already around noong time
Yeah.
na yan.
Mm.
And
There was a
and
demo na.
yung yeah, may demo na rin.
There was a
yeah,
demo, Destination.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
there's a demo.
because Freeway Man was written, the middle part of Freeway Man when we wrote that, Chad Rialp of Sound
Yeah.
and Tempestuous Jones, who was our circle of friends, right, Miggy?
Yeah.
He was the one who suggested some changes there in the middle. So those songs were, yeah, they were at the vault. That never really, then eventually, given the privilege and the chance to like make an album, and get an offer, uh, then yes, we do have material. And you know what, Jamie? One thing about that gig in 12 Monkeys,
Mm.
one thing that's memorable about that gig is that it was the first time I think the Blue Jean Junkies ever packed a place unexpectedly because there was a line till the escalator of
Yeah, dude, I remember. I was
Century.
there. There was a line in the escalator. The tables outside were full. I
Yes,
couldn't. I couldn't sit down.
yes,
And I could barely make it to the bar because it was that much of a full house. And we all
yeah.
went there.
Um,
When I was talking to people who were there, we all went there to fully support you guys because we've always loved you guys. And it was so nice, like I said, to have an album to be able to take home. But that night was I don't know, I don't remember, honestly. I don't remember how it ended because I got really wasak.
Me neither, Jamie.
The last
I
thing,
have
the
a
last
question
thing,
for you,
the last
Jamie.
thing the last thing I remember was talking to Francis, and then after that, I'm like,
Oh,
huh? Yes, you have a question.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind. I'll ask the question. Just one, okay? Just one.
Go
So,
for it.
do you think the reason why we had that, or we got that reaction and that outcome in 12 Monkeys being jam packed with a lot of supporters, aside from the music and quality, do you think that is it because the band had more focus now that it attracted energy and vibes that, hey, this is new? Or maybe I don't want to sound self-centered, okay? Is Nino turning a new leaf or a new page?
No,
Or, you
okay,
know,
okay,
do
okay.
you
So
think
in
what
that
do you
sense,
think?
Nino, we didn't know that the band had more focus, that you had turned a new leaf. It wasn't that. It was the Junkies are going to be playing. They have an album out, and we want to support them. It was as basic as that. And we all went there and saw the new focus. We saw the new energy. We saw the new dynamic. And that was like icing on the cake for us because we went there fully ready to support you guys anyway. I mean, it does help that not only all of you, this particular configuration, that you're all excellent musicians, but you're also all very good looking. Ang ina, di ba? Pogi pa. So it's so much fun to watch on stage. That's the beauty about the Blue Jean Junkies, and I think that's what I remember the most on in that gig in 12 Monkeys. It's not only were we there to support you, and when we saw your newfound focus and your newfound energy at the gig, but all of you were just having so much fun that
Yeah,
was infectious. We were
Yeah.
all having so much. Like I said, I had so much fun. I don't remember how I got home that night.
So in other words, these four individuals right in front of me, or Nathan, Nico, and Miggy, it's a magical power lineup. You know,
Para sa
it's
akin. Oh, para sa akin,
yeah,
ito yung lineup mo eh. Ito yung lineup
right.
mo. I
Yeah.
would be happily,
And I believe
sitting
that
on
we
the.
were most effective. I mean,
we are a well-oiled machine, man.
Yeah, you guys
We
were
were
well.
because we would
before that, we were just managing
because we would
ourselves.
always practice every week. That's why.
But can I just say, you guys were a well-oiled machine, but there was that combination of tightness and looseness to it,
Yes,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
which is so hard to find in
Yeah.
bands because it's either you're placado, we end like
Oh,
this, we shift to the bridge here. You
yeah.
guys didn't have that, but you always stuck the fucking landing. Like Nathan said, you fell down the stairs, but you stuck the landing. And
yeah,
this is the lineup for me, in my opinion.
yeah,
As a fan, as a supporter, this is the lineup that stuck the fucking landing each time.
right.
You
And may
know?
I add to that? I also think that if one of the gears in the machine breaks down, we break down. So, I'll take it a day at a time and I'll speak for myself and
Oh,
try to make it work.
it's
Now
the it's I think
we're
it's the
all
sum of the
wiser.
part.
Now that
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just like a marriage, right? I mean, it ain't a walk in the park. And trials make either the relationship tighter or wiser. I mean, I wouldn't want to make it deteriorate my way of thinking and
Mm.
latch on to the negativity. So, acceptance is key.
But this, but for me, this is the lineup. This is the lineup where I had so much fun jamming with you guys. And if I wasn't asked to jam at any night that I would encounter you in a bar, I would also be perfectly happy just hanging out in the audience area and watching you guys have fun. And yes, there's magic in this. It's a certain combination of personalities, of talent, of work ethic, of Nathan having to text you guys or call you guys na saan na kayo, magna 9 o'clock na, or picking up Miggy from his bedroom, from his bed, or you, Nino, from your bed. But when you guys got on stage, yes, I think um, my my take on this unanimously, I mean, like, without any hesitation, there was magic there. And that's why always enjoyed coming to watch this particular lineup of the Blue Jean Junkies. And that's why I love the fact that you guys are on that album, and that there's a piece of you that, especially during this pandemic where, you get into depression, your anxiety, you know what I mean, all that. But, before this show, before you guys were guesting here, I would have elements of you playing in my bedroom, in my sala, in my home. So I think that's the beauty of this in terms of this lineup, because there's magic there and you guys got the magic down in that sense. We are currently almost to the 2 hour mark. So I'm going to go quickly into the rundown. Wait, okay, so one more question from Gold. Do you guys have any pre-gig rituals?
Alcohol.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Alcohol,
Alcohol and then some.
There,
Yeah.
there was one, I remember there was one gig we played in Peligro, and we must have been in our third song, of what was supposed to be 45 or 60 minutes. And I remember calling it like, guys, this is not working. It's not working. Let's take a quick short break and then play
Yeah.
a long set after. And
Okay.
in that short break, we just fueled up. I remember Nico and I went to the bar, tequila, beer, 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 beer. By the time we went on stage, okay na kami.
but peligro. Where was this? Oh,
When
Aguirre.
was this?
Peligro,
Yeah.
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 Peligro,
Public
yeah,
class.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but
Okay.
I
I
totally I totally subscribe to that point of view, Miggy, because like
Yeah.
me doing a gig without having a drink is tight. I mean, like I'm coiled. You know what I
Oh,
mean? I'm
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
after a few drinks and you loosen up and you let the music take over,
Yeah.
then that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Nakakatawa lang na sinabi ni Miggy, tequila, beer, 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 beer.
That's how
Beer,
it
beer,
was,
beer,
man.
beer, beer.
Remember that birthday party we played? We played the birthday party for someone who was turning 1 year old.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
It
yeah,
was
What's this?
baby's birthday
yeah,
party
yeah.
in Century City on like a
Right,
penthouse,
right. I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
and there was no alcohol there.
What's this? Someone please
You know-
enlighten me. And
Well, you were there.
You were there,
yeah, I was
man.
there. Okay, refresh my memory banks, baby.
You remember we met this couple in a gig, and they liked us, so they said, "Oh, we want you to play for our baby's birthday
Oh
party."
yeah,
That's gotta be the
right.
weirdest.
Or-
That's gotta be the
Afternoon.
weirdest gig request
Afternoon.
ever.
I think
Right,
that's,
for the Junkies, imagine us playing for like babies in the room.
that's right. This was afternoon, like
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I think
I
was that
remember-
your gig or Nico's gig? Who put that together?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know all the details, but I remember that there was no alcohol. So I remember that in that gig, it was really a case of playing songs kind of like from start to end, as opposed to what you're saying, Jamie, where it's very loose and you don't really
Yeah.
know the direction it's gonna go. I think like without that pre-gig ritual, it became we were a little bit stiffer, and we
Yeah.
just sort of said, okay, well, this is how it starts and goes and ends, and that's what you do. But with some drinks in you, that's when I feel like we're,
Yeah.
like
It's
You're
a
in the
lubricant.
zone.
songs.
Yeah. I don't. I know of no other band that has been asked to play for a 1-year-old's birthday party. So you
That's
guys,
Yeah.
you guys.
Right.
All right. So guys, we're hitting the 2 hour mark. I'm gonna go into the rundown, but before I go into the rundown with just Nino, thank you so much, Miggy, Nathan, Nico, for taking
Thanks,
the
Thank
time
Miggy.
you.
tonight.
Thanks,
One
Oscar.
more thing. I'd like to say something to Nathan, Nico, and Miggy before we let them go. I want to say that thank you for sticking it out with Blue Jean and accepting me for, I have my quirks, like we all are a work in progress. But what matters most at the end of the day is the music. And sometimes things are really meant to be. There's a difference between stopping and quitting. And when we stop, we metaphorically speaking, it could be for the better of things to reboot, to what's this, get some space to see the bigger picture for the greater good, then rather to quit and make the investment go to waste after all these years. But I'm not trying to insinuate anything. It's just from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for believing in me and sticking it out. Even if you all got paid for each and every gig anyway, man.
Right.
No, but man,
Come on.
these are just the ups and downs of any band that any band goes
Yeah.
through.
Yeah,
And
man,
no matter
and
what, no
there's
matter
the-
what,
there's
no
this
matter
amazing-
what goes on behind the scenes, off stage, what matters the most is the music and the moments that you create on stage. And for me, the moments that this particular lineup of the Blue Jean Junkies has created will be forever, forever in my heart. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you
Oh
so
wait,
much for
and
being
one
Thank you,
more.
Jamie.
One
you,
more.
Nathan. No, wait, Nino, no, we gotta go. We gotta move on to the next segment. So
This will
we've
take
had you,
less than
we've
10
had your
seconds.
chance.
Less than 10 seconds.
Oh,
Promise.
talaga, ah. Okay, so countdown.
Talaga.
Okay, starting now.
For whatever it is, if I may have forgotten, I'm sorry and I would like to make amends. I hope we can get past whatever it is and I'll accept whatever your reaction would be. So I'm sorry.
We're
Yeah.
easy to talk to. We just
Hey,
need
no
coffee, and you have
Yeah, no
coffee.
All
worries.
right.
There you go. Kasi lang pala yung Nathan eh.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
Okay. So
Yeah, man.
thank you guys. Thank you. I'm gonna take Nino onto the rundown. Miggy, Nico, Nathan. Bless you guys. I love you guys. You guys stay safe, stay sane. And here's looking forward to when gigs come back. I hope to see you guys and jam with you guys on stage soon.
All right, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Hey, see you guys later. Take care.
All right,
Thank-
Nino.
oh,
Okay, Nino. We're going into a segment we call the rundown, which where I ask you, a few quick questions and just answer off the top of your head. All right, let's start. My first question is: what is your favorite word?
my favorite word,
Yes,
up.
up. Nice. What is your least favorite word?
Down.
What turns you on?
What turns me on is when I hear the words or the text. Nino, we're up 20%. Nino, we're up 30%. Nino, we're up 50%.
Nice. Okay, what turns you off?
What turns me off, Nino, we're down. We're down
Oh.
a certain percentage. Or sometimes when I go into a parking lot, when I go to the grocery and I go to the parking lot, and there's a big sign there in the parking lot that says, please park facing the wall for everybody's safety."
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw this on your Facebook feed.
And then so I park facing the wall, right? And
Yeah.
then all the cars their butts are facing the wall, the back of the car is facing the wall. And I said, but it isn't logical. here am I. I mean, I know I can't change others, okay, and just go back into that basic tools of thinking that it's better to understand rather than to be understood. I'm one with the force, and the force is one with me. Whatever, you know. When you're going to a grocery, isn't it more logical that you park facing the wall? Because when you carry your groceries, you're gonna have to
You put
open
it
the
in front.
trunk, right? Right. So yeah, this just happened yesterday, and I was very OC yesterday. For whatever reason, it's just the ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that on your Facebook
Yeah,
feed.
yeah,
It's just annoying when people don't read.
yeah. So I was like, did I read wrong, or am I just rare nowadays? Maybe I'm just rare. Instead of me, like, I can't control.
Nino, Nino, you've always been rare.
Aren't we
You're
all?
you're
Especially,
one of a kind, brother. You're one of a kind. Okay, moving on to the next question. What
yeah.
sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? A very, very good mix. Yung hindi pa mix, it hasn't been mixed yet. It's still the tracks. It hasn't been mixed and it sounds good already.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
that. I'm like, yeah,
Okay,
fun.
what sound or noise naman do you hate?
Liz, what sound or noise do I hate? Gunfire?
Gunfire.
But
Yeah, that's
you know what?
upset.
It's funny because I like Martin Scorsese movies. Ever since Mean Streets, ever since
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those things. And the thing is, when you hear it live, like happening in a bar,
Iba.
because
Iba yun.
outside, it kind of freaks you out because it's like, wait, I haven't finished the track, and I want
Oh,
to something. I need to leave. I don't know.
correct.
Crossfire.
Okay, so
So
gunfire. All
yeah,
right, next question. What
but I have
is your
nothing against guns. For
yeah.
for other
No,
people,
it's just
for
stressful when you hear gunfire live.
yeah,
That's
it's a
diba?
diba?
Iba yun. Okay, next question. What is your favorite shower song? What do you sing in the shower, Nino?
Nowadays it's any any song by Blue the Tiger. I think
Ah,
I think she's amazing. Her melodies, the way she plays the bass, disco, funk, pop, and her melodies are amazing. I love her.
fantastic. Okay,
Blue the
good.
Blue the Tiger.
Blue the
Remember that
Tiger.
Blue the Tiger? And when you hear her and see her, Nino.
Okay, next question. What habit or behavior annoys you the most? Aside from people who can't read in the parking lot.
Well,
What's another behavior?
when they don't wear their masks, or when they wear their masks, uh, but their nose is sticking out.
Correct. Yes.
It's like, hey, oh, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's your nose.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine as well. Yeah. Wear your masks properly, people, or else we're never gonna get out of this pandemic.
Yeah, that kind
That's the
of,
first step.
because I think that it's. Do you think I feel comfortable wearing a mask? Nobody feels comfortable wearing a
Nobody
mask.
does.
It's very
But we gotta do
inconsiderate.
it. But we
Yeah, it's
gotta do
very
it.
inconsiderate. Yeah, and
Okay,
for
next
Hmm.
okay, next question. If you could collaborate with any artist, living or dead, who would that be? Anyone. Off the top of your head,
artist, hindi band.
Hindi, okay lang kung banda.
Well, I'd love to play some harmonica for the
For
Stones, obviously,
yes.
because they're the longest band that's alive, and just to even be on the same stage with them and to create and immortalize something with them would be like,
Yes. That's
I'd
the
feel-
dream, baby.
I would feel like a made man.
That's the dream. All right,
I
good.
mean,
Okay, so last question. When you get to heaven, what do you want God to say to you?
Nino, you have placed to good use the life I have given you. Carry on,
Carry
where
on. I
all
love it.
where all has fled. I have to
Nice.
read a poem from Shelley. Thank you for
Good,
coming to the concert of
good, good.
Brian.
Okay, I've got one last question for you, one for the road. You've been a musician and artist for a very long time. What words of wisdom or advice would you give to anyone just starting out in music?
Uh, Consistency and maintenance are vital keys. Think of it as an investment. Like I said, stopping and quitting are two different things. If you stop,
Yes.
you either could gather and regenerate the things you need to be inspired again, to fuel yourself, your soul, your mind, reboot. Uh, on stopping and quitting is different. But when you quit, the investment goes to waste. It doesn't, if do what you need to do to move on and to work with the people who you're comfortable with that will bring out the best in you. If you feel that it isn't comfortable, and then you talk to them and go head on to try to work things out, that's good. But if it doesn't work, don't try to kick a dead horse. So consistency and maintenance is very vital. It isn't the fame. It isn't like 1 or 1 million people are watching me there, because whatever it is, you have to do it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, even though if we're with 100 people with us, or even though if we're with a companion with us in bed, at the end of the day, we are alone with the committee in our head, with our thoughts. It's just
Yes.
me and my thoughts.
Yes.
And what makes us happy are the things we do to fulfill our soul, our need, whether it be a need for music or uh, personal standards. And we must do it for ourselves, not for others, not for what they'll think. It's really at the end of the day, para sa atin to, just to keep our head not too high, but just at level to face people, for that confidence of feeling accomplished.
Fantastic. And surround yourself with good people. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making the time, Nino. And hey, man, we're gonna make more music pretty soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, um, thank you so much, Nino Mendoza, Blue Jean Junkies. Thank you so much, Nathan, Nico, and Miggy, and of course, Nino. Keep on rocking, guys, and keep on rolling.
Thank you,
I love you.
Offshore. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Nino.
Love you too.
All right, man. Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, you have a conversation with the band who's been together for a long time through ups and downs. You have an artist like Sally Edwards, who has, successfully reinvented themselves. Um in a sense where they're pursuing what their heart is telling them to do. And I think it's more important now more than ever to make sure that you're happy with what you're doing, and you're doing what makes you happy. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. People go through ups and downs in their cycles of life, and what goes down must come up, and we all have our time. And if you surround yourself with good people, you can have fun with these people, then I think that's what counts. So thank you so much, Sally Edwards. Thank you so much, Blue Jean Junkies. Just a few reminders, ladies and gentlemen, from Offshore Music. Eliza Marie has a new single out called Bored as Hell, and she will be releasing a full album very soon. The Pink Men just released a song called Historical. It's an amazing psychedelic song that, if you listen closely, there's a little nod there to the now closed, sadly, Route 196. So make sure to check them out. They're on all the streaming platforms. And of course, the Full Flood LP of Apartel is out. It's a 2 LP half speed mastering by Miles Shoal from Abbey Road. He's worked with Queen, Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Now check out the list of record store partners on the Offshore Music page to make sure you get your copy of this really collector's item, one of a kind LP. And of course, just like to remind you guys, the book Alternate Endings, The Making of the Final Set, Written by Aldo Santos and designed by Jelos Lagasca with a foreword by the man himself, Eli Buendia, is still available. This is the official account of that last concert of the Eraserheads. Never before seen shots, bits of trivia, and a peek at how it all came together. This is still available from Offshore Music. And of course, keep on streaming Jun Lupito's new album, Bodhi 3 NMRK, a classic piece of work from a Pinoy rock icon. Now, from our friends from liquor.ph, hey, it's flash sale time. So they're having a flash sale at liquor.ph. You have until tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. They are offering you the absolutely ridiculous discount of 25% off on some of our favorite whiskeys and bourbons. Tonight, I am enjoying one of the best deals out there, Mellow Corn. It is, one of the most unique bottled in bond straight corn whiskeys out there. Mellow Corn is as straightforward as they come. It's got a pretty strong kick, guys, for corn. Literally, oh, it's kicking me in the head right now. So grab a bottle at the liquor.ph website to get your orders in today before the time runs out. Thank you so much from our friend Buenos Dias Panaderia. You guys always bring me such happiness, and I look forward to the unique, notes that you send me inside my box of Milo buns or Milo donuts. I love you guys. Thank you so much to the Misty Mountain Cafe from Nino Mendoza, who personally makes sure that I get good, strong, premium coffee from his blends. And hey, make sure you guys follow their Facebook and their Instagram pages to see what else that they've got. So we've got some very amazing guests for March, but we're changing things up a little, and I want to see if this is going to work. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any requests, if you want to recommend artists to be featured on the show, if you have any ideas or questions or feedback, please message me on my Facebook page, Jamie Wilson. That's all caps, Jamiewilson. Message me if you have anything you want to say about this, if you have recommendations, if there are any artists you want to see on the show, and I will make sure to get back to you. And of course, keep on checking the Offshore Music page for any updates. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Jamie Wilson. I'm reminding all of you to please stay safe, stay strong, stay sane, and keep on rocking and keep on rolling. And if all else fails, let the music keep you going. And if life finds you a little shaken or a little stirred, a little mixed up, or maybe even on the rocks, what matters most is that you take your shot. So, ladies and gentlemen, cheers. Thank you very much, and good night.